December 20th, 1943, 20,000 feet above Nazi Germany. Two aircraft flying together in a formation that should be impossible. A German fighter pilot has his enemy perfectly positioned. One trigger pull, 3 seconds of cannon fire. The crippled American bomber beside him would disintegrate. His 28th kill. The Knight's Cross, Germany's highest military honor, would be his. His commanders are waiting for confirmation. The standing orders are absolute. Destroy all enemy aircraft. What he does instead will be classified as top secret by both the American and German militaries. For 46 years, no one will know this encounter ever happened. But to understand this moment, we need to go back to where both men woke up that morning. This is a story about a choice, not a choice made in the clarity of peacetime, not a philosophical debate in a university classroom, but a choice made in 60 seconds at 20,000 feet, with engines screaming and oxygen running low, and every instinct screaming one thing, while something deeper whispered another. Two men, Second Lieutenant Charlie Brown, 21 years old, West Virginia farm boy, 4 months out of flight school. His mother still sends him care packages with homemade cookies that arrive crushed but treasured. And Oberleutnant Franz Stigler, 28 years old, veteran fighter pilot, over 400 combat missions flown, 27 confirmed kills, 1 kill away from Germany's highest honor. A man who has seen enough death to understand exactly what it costs. The mathematics of the air war over Germany in late 1943 are brutal. Of every 100 American airmen who begin their tour, only 24 will survive 25 missions without being killed, wounded, or captured. Some units lose 80% of their men before the year ends. Charlie Brown is on mission number 1. Franz Stigler is a hunter. And on December 20th, the sky is full of prey. What neither man knows, what neither man could possibly know, is that in 8 hours, their lives will intersect in a way that defies everything they've been taught about war, about duty, about who the enemy really is. And that this encounter will remain a secret both men carry, separately, silently, for the next 46 years. 4:30 in the morning, December cold that cuts through even heated flight suits. The wake-up call comes in darkness, as it always does for missions deep into Germany. Charlie Brown has barely slept. Mission briefing was the night before. Target, Bremen, industrial city on Germany's north coast, U-boat components, submarine pens, war-critical manufacturing that's helping strangle Allied supply lines across the Atlantic. Distance, deep into German airspace. Expected fighter resistance, heavy. Expected flak, intense. Expected casualties. The briefing officer used the word acceptable, which is how the military describes losing 10% of the men in this room. 10 men will climb into Charlie's B-17 that morning. Aircraft designation 4231226. Unofficial name painted on her nose, Ye Old Pub. Someone's idea of humor. A flying pub that serves only terror and fire. Navigator from Ohio. Bombardier from Brooklyn. Radio operator from Georgia. Ball turret gunner who just turned 19 and lied about his age to enlist. Tail gunner who plays harmonica in the barracks at night. Waist gunners who argue about baseball teams they haven't seen play in over a year. None of them old enough to legally drink in the bars they'd been sneaking into in London. All of them about to fly into airspace, where the life expectancy is measured in minutes. There's a superstition among bomber crews. You don't make plans for after the war. You don't talk about what you'll do when you get home. You don't count your missions out loud. You don't wonder why Robinson's bunk is empty this morning, or why the mess hall has gotten quieter each week. Because acknowledging it makes it real, and if it's real, you might not be able to climb into that aircraft when they call your name. At 6:30 in the morning, engines begin turning over across Kimballton Airfield. 32 Wright Cyclone engines per aircraft, 18 aircraft preparing for takeoff. The sound is overwhelming. A physical force that vibrates in your chest, that makes conversation impossible, that drowns out thought. Charlie Brown climbs into the left seat, aircraft commander, 21 years old. Everything he knows about leading men in combat came from manuals and training flights over peaceful English countryside where the biggest danger was a rain squall. In 3 hours, none of that training will matter. 150 miles northeast, Franz Stigler is already in the air on a training flight when the alert comes through. He's been a fighter pilot since 1940. Spain, North Africa, Sicily, the Eastern Front, now defending the Reich itself against bomber streams that darken the sky like migrating locusts. He's seen war in every form it takes. The chaos of it, the brutality, the moments where the machinery of killing becomes something almost mechanical, automatic, where you stop seeing faces and start seeing targets. But he's also seen something else, something that matters more than tactics or kills or medals. His commanding officer, Gustav Rodel, a man with 60 kills to his name, an ace among aces, had pulled him aside years earlier during training in North Africa. What Rodel told him wasn't in any manual, wasn't in any official doctrine from the high command. If I ever see or hear of you shooting at a man in a parachute, I will shoot you down myself. Not a suggestion, not advice, a promise. Because even in war, especially in war, there are lines, there are rules that matter more than orders from Berlin. There are things that separate warriors from murderers, that keep you human even when everything around you is designed to turn you into something else. Franz has carried those words for 3 years, like a talisman. He's also carried other things. The memory of his brother August, shot down over England in 1940. A bright, laughing boy who wanted to be an architect and who burned alive in a Messerschmitt over the Thames. His childhood friends from the flying club, killed one by one as the war grinds on. Karl over Stalingrad, Hans over Tunis, Werner last month over Hamburg. The understanding that Germany is losing, not quickly, not dramatically, but inexorably. That every day the bomber streams grow larger, the fighter units grow smaller, and the mathematics are against them. That defending the Reich has become not a path to victory, but a slow-motion catastrophe where you fight knowing the end is already written. On the morning of December 20th, Franz Stigler needs one more kill, one more confirmed destruction of an enemy aircraft. 27 victories sit in his logbook. Each one a human story, a name, a face he tries not to remember. 28 earns the Knight's Cross, the Ritterkreuz, the medal presented by Adolf Hitler himself in Berlin. One more kill, just one. At 11:30 in the morning, the call comes in. American bomber formation approaching Bremen. Heavy B-17s, 4-engine targets, the kind of kill that counts. Franz's Messerschmitt screams off the runway. The hunt begins. The 379th Bomb Group crosses into German airspace at 9:45 in the morning. 18 B-17 flying fortresses in tight formation. Each aircraft carrying 13,000 pounds of high explosives, each representing 10 men and $4 million of American industrial power. From the ground, the formation looks invincible, a metal constellation moving across the winter sky with terrible purpose. This is what America does. It builds these enormous machines, trains boys to fly them, and sends them in waves that never stop coming. From inside the aircraft, it feels different. Charlie Brown sits in the left seat of Ye Old Pub, trying to maintain position in the formation. The controls feel stiff in the thin, cold air. Ice crystals are already forming on the windscreen. The heaters struggle against December at 23,000 feet. Behind him, 9 other men occupy their positions. Ball turret gunner suspended beneath the aircraft in a rotating sphere of plexiglass, scanning for fighters from below. Tail gunner isolated in the back, watching their 6 o'clock. Waist gunners at the side windows. Radio operator monitoring frequencies filled with cross-chatter and calls for help. Bombardier in the nose, calculating wind speed and trajectory. Navigator bent over maps, updating position. Everyone is on oxygen. Everyone is watching. The first fighters appear at 10:15. Messerschmitt 109s and Focke-Wulf 190s, climbing from airfields across northern Germany. They come in waves, attacking from the sun, from below, from dead ahead. The standard tactics designed to break formations apart, to isolate stragglers, to turn a coordinated defense into individual struggles for survival. The radio erupts. Fighters, 2 o'clock high. 319s, coming in level. Watch your 6, watch your 6. The guns open up. 50 caliber machine guns hammering from every position. The smell of cordite fills the aircraft. Hot brass casings rain down, bouncing and rolling across aluminum floors. The noise is deafening, even through leather helmets. This is what they trained for. This is what kept them awake at night in England. The reality of it, the chaos and violence and speed of it, exceeds every simulation, every briefing, every war story told by veterans in the officers' club. Charlie's first combat engagement lasts 90 seconds. It feels like 90 minutes. A Focke-Wulf 190 comes head-on, closing at a combined speed of over 500 miles per hour. The German fighters' cannons wink orange. Explosive rounds walk across ye old pub's left wing. Metal tears, systems fail. Warning lights illuminate across the instrument panel. The waist gunner, Hugh Eckenrode, fires back. Tracers arc out into the frozen air. The Focke-Wulf rolls and dives away. Whether it's hit or simply breaking off is impossible to tell. More fighters, always more fighters. The formation tightens instinctively, B-17s drawing closer together like herd animals sensing predators. The defensive fire from 50 aircraft creates a wall of lead that German fighters must penetrate. But they're experienced. They know the blind spots. They know where the guns can't traverse. Bremen appears on the horizon. Industrial haze. Factories. Docks. The target they've flown 800 miles to destroy. And surrounding it, a curtain of anti-aircraft fire that begins erupting. The moment they're within range. Flak. The German 88mm anti-aircraft guns fire in coordinated batteries. Each shell contains a timed fuse set to explode at bomber altitude. When they detonate, they create clouds of shrapnel moving at lethal velocity. A single fragment the size of a fist can tear through aluminum, through hydraulic lines, through flesh. The shells burst around the formation. Black puffs that appear suddenly, impossibly close. Some so near that the aircraft shudders from the concussion. Shrapnel rattles against the fuselage like hail on a tin roof. You can't evade it, you can't outmaneuver it. You fly straight and level on the bomb run, hold formation, and hope the statistics work in your favor. They don't always work in your favor. A B-17 to Charlie's right takes a direct hit. One moment it's there, engines droning, maintaining position. The next moment the nose section simply disintegrates. The aircraft tips forward into a dive. No parachutes emerge. 10 men gone in the time it takes to draw a breath. Charlie forces himself to look away. Forces himself to focus on instruments, on airspeed, on maintaining formation. If you think about it, if you let yourself process what you just saw, you can't function. The intercom crackles, bomb bay doors open, bomb sight engaged, 30 seconds to release. 30 seconds that stretch into eternity while shells burst around them and fighters circle like sharks and every instinct screams to break formation, to dive, to run. But you don't run, not on the bomb run. You hold steady. Bombs away. 13,000 pounds drop free. The aircraft lurches upward, suddenly lighter. The bombardier watches through his sight as the bombs fall toward the dockyards below, toward buildings where German workers are trying to survive this war, just like everyone else, toward a city that will burn tonight. This is the moment where you're supposed to feel something. Victory, accomplishment, the satisfaction of mission completion. Charlie feels nothing except the need to survive the next hour. Bomb bay doors closed. Let's get the hell out of here. The formation banks away from Bremen, turning west toward England, toward safety, toward home. The worst should be over. They've dropped their bombs. They're leaving the heaviest flak zone. The fighter attacks should diminish as they move away from the Reich's heart. But December 20th, 1943, has other plans for Ye Old Pub. The Focke-Wulf comes from below and behind, a blind spot in the B-17's defensive coverage, the kind of attack angle that experienced German pilots know by heart. 20mm cannon rounds punch through the aircraft's belly, through the ball turret, through hydraulic lines and control cables and systems that keep aluminum and men airborne at 20,000 feet. The ball turret gunner, a 19-year-old kid from Michigan, whose name is Hugh Eckenrode, takes the hit directly. The rounds tear through the plexiglass sphere, through his position, through him. He dies instantly. In the grand accounting of the war, he becomes one more statistic, one more name on a casualty list, one more empty bunk in a barracks in England. But in this moment, in this aircraft, he's a friend, a boy who played harmonica, who talked about a girl back home named Susan, who said he was going to open a garage after the war and fix cars and never look at an aeroplane again. The waist gunners try to reach him, try to pull him from the turret, but the mechanism is jammed. The hydraulics are gone, and there's nothing they can do except watch their friend bleed out in a sphere of shattered plexiglass while the aircraft shudders around them. More fighters press the attack. They sense weakness. They can see the damage, the smoke trailing from the engines, the way Ye Old Pub is struggling to maintain altitude. A Messerschmitt 109 makes a pass from the right. Its cannons rake the fuselage. The tail gunner, Sergeant Al Sadok, fires back until his guns jam. Then he crouches in his isolated position at the back of the aircraft, waiting for the next attack that he can no longer defend against. The radio operator takes shrapnel in his shoulder. The navigator's station is torn apart by cannon fire. Maps scatter. Blood sprays across charts and instruments. He keeps working anyway, trying to calculate a course home, because if they get lost over Germany with a crippled aircraft, they're dead. Number 2 engine catches fire. The flames stream back along the wing, orange against the grey winter sky. Charlie hits the fire suppression system. Nothing happens. The hydraulics are shot. He has to pull the manual release, a physical handle that takes every ounce of strength to move. The fire extinguishes, but the engine is dead. 3 engines left, and one of those 3 is running rough, temperature gauges climbing into the red. They're losing altitude, slowly at first, then faster, 23,000 feet, 22,000, 21. The formation is pulling away above them, following the flight plan, maintaining speed, standard procedure. You don't slow down for stragglers. You can't. It puts everyone at risk. Charlie watches the other B-17s disappear into the distance, watches their last connection to safety, to protection, to the collective defense that keeps you alive, fade into the winter haze. Now, they're alone. A wounded bomber, hundreds of miles behind enemy lines, losing altitude, leaving a smoke trail visible for 50 miles. Every German fighter in northern Germany knows where they are. The intercom crackles with voices trying to stay calm, trying to follow procedure, trying not to acknowledge that they're probably going to die in the next 10 minutes. Can we make it to the coast? Charlie does the math. Their airspeed, their rate of descent, the distance to the North Sea. The numbers don't work. They'll be down to 10,000 feet before they reach the Dutch border. Maybe lower, well within range of ground fire. Easy prey for any fighter that wants an effortless kill. We're going to try. Because what else do you say? What else can you do except keep flying, keep fighting, keep believing that somehow the mathematics will work out differently than they obviously will? This is the moment where Charlie Brown has to make a choice. Option 1. Order everyone to bail out. Hit the alarm bell. Give the crew 30 seconds to grab their parachutes and jump. Some of them might make it to the ground alive. Some of them might evade capture. It's a slim chance, but it's a chance. Option 2. Stay with the aircraft. Try to nurse it back to England. Keep flying until the engines quit, or the fighters finish them off, or they simply fall out of the sky when altitude and airspeed finally reach zero. He looks at the instrument panel, at the gauges showing systems failure across the board, at the altimeter unwinding steadily downward, at the fuel indicators showing tanks punctured and leaking, precious gasoline streaming out into the air, creating vapor trails that mark their position for anyone who cares to look. He looks at the empty seat where the co-pilot should be. The co-pilot, who took shrapnel to the head during the fighter attacks and who's now slumped unconscious in the navigator's compartment while the navigator tries to stop the bleeding with his own wounded hands. He looks out at the wing where fire scorched the aluminum black, at the dead engine, at the control surfaces that barely respond when he moves the yoke. And he makes a choice that any rational analysis would call suicidal. We're staying with her. We're going home. Maybe it's stubbornness. Maybe it's the refusal to leave Hugh Eckenrode's body behind in enemy territory. Maybe it's the belief that his crew has a better chance inside this dying aircraft than floating down on parachutes into a Germany that's been bombed daily for years and might not be inclined to treat American airmen with mercy. Or maybe it's something simpler. Maybe it's that giving up feels like a betrayal of something he can't quite name, some promise he made to himself when he put on the uniform, some contract with the 19-year-old ball turret gunner who's never going to see Susan again. They keep flying west, 17,000 feet, 16,000, 15. The formation is gone. The sky is empty except for them and their smoke trail and the fighters that are certainly coming. Franz Stigler sees the smoke trail from 5 miles away. He's been flying for 3 hours. He's made 2 passes on the main American formation, damaged one B-17 that fell out of formation, claimed a probable kill that might or might not be confirmed later. His Messerschmitt is low on ammunition. He should be heading back to Jever Airfield to refuel and rearm. But there's that smoke trail, unmistakable, a wounded bomber, alone, losing altitude, the kind of target that's almost too easy, the kind of kill that counts just as much as the hard ones. His 28th victory, the Knight's Cross, the medal he needs. He banks toward the smoke and accelerates. As he closes the distance, the damage becomes visible. This isn't just a wounded aircraft. This is a dying one. The tail section is shredded. The ball turret is destroyed. One engine is completely gone. Another is barely running. The aircraft is wallowing through the air like a drunk trying to walk a straight line. Franz positions himself for the attack, behind and below, the classic kill position. His finger rests on the trigger. This will take 5 seconds, maybe less. He starts his run, and then something makes him hold his fire, some instinct, some hesitation. He pulls up alongside the bomber instead of attacking from behind, pulls in close. So close he can see into the waist windows of the aircraft. What he sees changes everything. The waist gunners aren't at their guns. One is trying to render first aid to someone on the floor. Another is slumped against the fuselage, clearly wounded. The entire side of the aircraft is torn open. He can see through the holes in the metal, can see men moving inside, trying to save their aircraft, trying to save each other. He pulls in closer still. Parallel to the cockpit, close enough to see the pilot's face, a young face, a boy's face, really, covered in blood, either his own or someone else's, fighting with controls that barely respond, keeping this wreck in the air through willpower and nothing else. And Franz Stigler has a sudden, overwhelming understanding. He's not looking at an enemy bomber. He's not looking at a target. He's looking at men in a lifeboat. Men who have already been shot down in every way that matters except the final impact with the ground. Men who are trying desperately to survive, to make it home, to see another sunrise. The words his commanding officer told him 3 years ago come back with force. If I ever see or hear of you shooting at a man in a parachute, I will shoot you down myself. These men aren't in parachutes. But they might as well be. They're defenseless. They're already beaten. Killing them now wouldn't be combat. It would be execution. It would be murder. And Franz Stigler, after 400 combat missions, after 27 kills, after years of war that have stripped away almost everything soft and human, discovers he still has a line he won't cross. He makes his decision. Instead of attacking, he pulls in even closer, close enough that the American pilot can see him clearly, close enough to make eye contact across 50 feet of frozen air. And Franz Stigler does something that could get him court-martialed, that could get him shot for treason, that defies every order, every briefing, every piece of doctrine drilled into him for 4 years. He escorts the American bomber toward safety. Charlie Brown sees the Messerschmitt pull alongside, and his first thought is that this is it. This is how it ends. The German fighter is so close he can see the pilot's face inside the cockpit, can see the black cross on the fuselage, can see the gun ports that are about to tear his aircraft apart. He braces for the cannon fire, braces for the impact, braces for the final seconds before ye old pub disintegrates around him. The cannon fire doesn't come. Instead, the Messerschmitt just flies there, matching their speed, matching their altitude, not attacking, just there. Charlie's mind struggles to process this. There's no training for this situation, no manual, no procedure. Enemy fighters attack. That's what they do. They don't fly formation with you. They don't escort you. They kill you. Except this one isn't killing them. The intercom erupts with confusion. What's he doing? Why isn't he shooting? Is this some kind of trick? Charlie has no answers. He's as baffled as everyone else. He keeps flying west because that's all he can do. Keep flying. Keep hoping. Keep trying to reach the coast before altitude reaches 0, or the engines quit, or reality catches up with how impossible this situation is. The Messerschmitt stays with them, flies so close that Charlie can see the pilot gesturing, pointing, trying to communicate something across the roar of engines and the howl of wind through torn metal. It takes Charlie several minutes to understand. The German pilot is pointing down, pointing toward Germany, pointing at a heading that would take them to the nearest German airfield. He's offering them a chance to land, to surrender, to become prisoners of war instead of dead men. It's not an unreasonable offer. In fact, by any rational analysis, it's the smart choice. They're losing altitude. The engines are dying. The North Sea is still 100 miles away. Landing in Germany means survival. Means becoming a prisoner, yes, but a living prisoner. Better than the alternative. Charlie shakes his head, points west, points toward England, toward home, toward the 1 in a million chance that they might actually make it. The German pilot nods, a simple acknowledgement across enemy lines. Your choice, your decision, I'll respect it. And he keeps flying with them. For 27 minutes, Franz Stigler escorts the dying B-17 westward. He flies close enough to prevent other German fighters from attacking. Any pilot approaching sees a Messerschmitt already engaged with the bomber and breaks off, looking for easier prey. It's an act of deception that borders on treason. If anyone reports this, if anyone realizes what he's actually doing, his career is over. His life might be over. But he keeps flying. They cross over German coastal defences, anti-aircraft batteries that would normally open fire on any Allied aircraft within range. But they see the Messerschmitt escort and hold their fire, assuming this is a captured American plane being brought in for study, or perhaps a German pilot bringing in prisoners. Franz makes his decision carefully orchestrated to look routine enough that no one questions it. They reach the North Sea, the boundary between German-controlled airspace and the open water that represents the Americans' only path to survival. This is where Franz has to break off, where he has to turn back. If he goes any further, he'll be within range of Allied coastal defences. He'll be shot down by the very people he's trying to save. He pulls up alongside the B-17 one final time, makes eye contact with the American pilot again. Across nationalities, across uniforms, across everything that's supposed to make them enemies, two pilots share a moment of perfect understanding. Franz salutes, a crisp military salute, a gesture of respect between warriors, an acknowledgement that something unusual and profound has just occurred. Charlie Brown, bleeding, exhausted, barely keeping his aircraft in the air, salutes back. The Messerschmitt banks away, returns to Germany, returns to a war that will continue for another 17 months, returns to a reality where this encounter never happened, where mercy is weakness, where the only thing that matters is the body count and the medals and the unwinnable mathematics of defending the Reich. Franz Stigler will never claim this encounter as a victory, will never report it to his commanders, will never speak of it. For him, this mission simply doesn't exist in the official record. But he'll remember it for the rest of his life. Ye Old Pub limps across the North Sea. The engines are dying. Fuel is almost gone. Altitude is down to 3,000 feet and still falling. The English coast appears through the haze like a miracle, but they're not safe yet. They still have to find an airfield, still have to land this broken aircraft, still have to defy the statistics one more time. They make it to RAF Seething, an emergency landing, fire crews standing by, ambulances waiting. The aircraft touches down hard, bounces, settles. The remaining engines cough and die before they even finish rolling to a stop. Charlie Brown shuts down the systems and just sits there. His hands are shaking. His crew is alive. Most of his crew is alive. They survived. Against every reasonable expectation, against the mathematics, against the odds, they survived. Hugh Eckenroe didn't survive. The ball turret gunner who played harmonica and talked about a girl named Susan and wanted to open a garage after the war. He died over Bremen, 19 years old. Another name on another casualty list. But 9 others lived, 9 men who were supposed to die. 9 men who got a second chance because a German fighter pilot decided that some things matter more than medals. The maintenance crew examines the aircraft. They count over 400 bullet and cannon shell holes. The tail section is barely attached. The ball turret is destroyed. 2 engines are gone. The 3rd and 4th are damaged beyond repair. Multiple control surfaces are shot away. Hydraulic systems are shredded. The aircraft should never have stayed in the air. The maintenance chief looks at Charlie Brown and says something that will stick with him forever. Someone was watching over you today, Lieutenant. Charlie nods. Because he knows exactly who was watching over them. He knows exactly why they survived. But when the debriefing officer asks him what happened, asks him how they made it back, asks him if anything unusual occurred, Charlie says what he's supposed to say. He describes the fighter attacks, the flak, the damage, the struggle to stay airborne. He doesn't mention the Messerschmitt that escorted them. He doesn't mention the German pilot who saluted him. He doesn't mention the 27 minutes that saved his life. Because reporting it would mean an investigation, would mean his new allies discovering that a German pilot let them go, would mean that pilot facing execution for treason. So Charlie Brown stays silent, files his report, returns to duty, and locks the memory of December 20th, 1943, into a place where it can't hurt anyone. The memory stays there for 46 years. Both men survive the war. Charlie Brown flies more missions, completes his tour, goes home to America, gets married, has a family, builds a life in the peacetime world that emerges from the ashes of 1945. He becomes a Foreign Service officer, sees the world, lives a good life. But he never forgets the German pilot who spared him. Franz Stigler survives too. He keeps flying until the war ends. Never earns his Knight's Cross because he's one kill short. Never tells anyone why he never got that final kill. When Germany surrenders in May of 1945, he's captured briefly, then released. He emigrates to Canada, starts over, becomes a successful businessman, marries, builds a new life, far from the ruins of the Reich. But he never forgets the American pilot he escorted to safety. For 46 years, neither man speaks about what happened. Charlie doesn't tell his wife, his children, his colleagues. It remains classified in his own memory, filed away under a heading marked classified and never to be discussed. Franz is equally silent. In a new country, building a new identity, the last thing he wants to discuss is his time as a Luftwaffe pilot. The things he did, the people he killed, the war he fought for a cause that became unequivocally evil. They carry the memory separately. Two men who shared 27 minutes that changed both their lives, living on opposite sides of the world, never speaking, never searching, never knowing if the other survived the war. Until 1990. Charlie Brown is 67 years old when he decides he can't die without knowing. He places an ad in a newsletter for Luftwaffe veterans. The ad is simple, specific, impossible to misconstrue. Seeking German pilot who, on December 20th, 1943, spared a damaged B-17 over Germany and escorted it to safety. I was the pilot of that aircraft. I need to find you. The newsletter is distributed to former Luftwaffe pilots across Europe and North America. Hundreds of men who flew for Germany during the war. Most of them have buried those memories. Most want nothing to do with revisiting that past. But one man, living in Vancouver, Canada, reads that ad and stops breathing. Franz Stigler is 75 years old. He hasn't thought about that December day in years, hasn't allowed himself to think about it. But seeing it in print, seeing confirmation that the American pilot survived, that those 27 minutes meant something, breaks through decades of silence. He picks up the phone, makes an international call, a secretary answers, transfers him, and then a voice he hasn't heard in 47 years comes on the line. This is Charlie Brown. Franz's voice is shaking. I was the pilot, the Messerschmitt. I escorted you. For a moment, there's silence. Then Charlie says, very quietly, I've been looking for you for 47 years. They talk for over an hour, verify every detail, the date, the location, the damage to the aircraft, the salute, the escort across the coast. Every piece fits, every memory aligns. This isn't a case of mistaken identity or wishful thinking. This is real. This happened. They found each other. And then they make arrangements to meet in person. When they finally stand face to face at Charlie's home in Florida, two old men who were once enemies, who should have killed each other, who defied every rule and expectation of war, they embrace. They cry. They become instant friends. For the next 18 years, they're inseparable. They speak weekly, they visit each other, they tell their story together at veteran reunions, at schools, at anyone who will listen. They write a book with Adam Makos. They become brothers in every way that matters. Charlie tells Franz something he's needed to say for nearly 5 decades. "You saved my life." Franz responds with something equally true. "You saved my humanity." Franz Stigler dies in March of 2008. He's 84 years old. Charlie Brown speaks at his funeral. He calls Franz his brother, the most honorable man he ever knew. The person who proved that even in humanity's darkest moments, individuals can still choose mercy. 6 months later, Charlie Brown dies, 85 years old. His family says he missed Franz every single day after the funeral. They're buried thousands of miles apart, but in the end, they're together in the only way that matters. United by 27 minutes at 20,000 feet, when one man chose conscience over orders, humanity over duty, and proved that even in total war, there's still room for compassion. Their story asks a question that echoes across decades. When faced with the choice between following orders and following your conscience, between doing what's expected and doing what's right, between being the soldier they trained you to be and being the human you know you still are, which do you choose? Franz Stigler answered that question on December 20th, 1943. His answer echoes still.